Hey guys, Tarke here, and I want to talk to you about my plans for the Perandus Flashback 2-week. Now, first off, this is an exposed arrow build, and it's a Juggernaut. So, exposed arrow makes sense, Juggernaut doesn't make sense. Why Juggernaut? The main thing that I'm worried about in this event is dying to something stupid. People need to remember that these flashback events are really rippy when you get into like the invasion, beyond, wombo combo, rogue exile dream scenario. So I've kind of gone for a build which is famously tanky, famously does a lot of damage, and I've made it even tankier. I think this is a pretty good idea. Most exposed fire builds that I've been looking at recently tend to just say, I'm exposed fire, I have a lot of life, and they don't do the whole layering of defense. Being a Juggernaut, having doubled armor means that the only thing which can realistically kill me is Ellie damage, and there is still a lot of scary Ellie damage, but I think I've come up with ways to handle it. So first off, let's just have a base sort of look at the tree, cover the notable things. Now, if you're an exposed fire build, you want to be using EE. EE is elemental equilibrium. Enemies you hit with elemental damage temporarily get plus 25 resistance to those elements, and minus 50 to other elements. So the idea is that you have some flat cold or lightning damage on a piece of jewelry or gloves or whatever. You hit them with the initial charge, because explosive arrow is a charge. You hit them with the charge, and then after a way it explodes for lots of damage. You hit them with the charge has some flat added damage on there, debuffs them to fire, the explosion goes off, they get hit for a big chunk of fire damage, right? I'm also going to be using elemental overload rather than going RT. The reason why I'm doing this is 40% more damage is a lot of damage. Because I'm a Juggernaut, I get undeniable. Flat 1000 accuracy is a lot of accuracy. That is basically all the accuracy I ever need. I don't need to worry about accuracy. A lot of the new exposed fire builds are going this route of taking Ellie overload, but they have some issues with having to get accuracy on gear or picking up awkward points in the tree. I can solve it all with my ascendancy. And then the last 2 points of my ascendancy are somewhat floaty. I've gone for Unstoppable, which gives me some movement speed. You cannot be slowed below base amount. This is kind of nice just for like temp chains, maps, chilled ground, stuff like that. But it's not that insane, right? I also get a little bit of armor movement speed from this one pointer, which is kind of nice. It could potentially be good just going for 2 mini nodes. So you could go mini node, and just take it for the armor. Unyielding, we don't have easy ways of maintaining Fortify without doing weird weapon swapping, which is obviously not something you want to do, so this is a no-go. Unflinching seems very good on paper. +1 to maximum endurance charges, 20% chance to gain endurance charge when you are hit. The way I'm planning on playing this character is I will off-screen everything. Nothing should be hitting me, and if it is hitting me, nowhere near enough that I can, use this to routinely keep up max endurance charges. Because I want to off-screen everything, I'm not going to be able to use Enduring Cry very well. I'll have an Enduring Cry set up for tight boss rooms, but I don't expect to have endurance charges that much. This just seems better. If I do decide that actually having max endurance charges is pretty straightforward, or I just want slightly more defense in tight boss rooms or corridors, then I would pick up Unflinching and drop this, but that's sort of fine. Now, the reason why you go Juggernaut over, say, Berserker, Chieftain, Champion, or Scion. Scion is the most damage, with Leech, for free, right? It's like, let me reiterate, okay. Berserker is the most damage, Scion is the most balanced, obvious option. Like, Scion is the one that you should be picking, but this is a weird flashback event. Because this is a weird flashback event, I want to be just overly defensive. I'm not going to be playing Self-Found, but I'm not expecting to have amazing gear. I'm not expecting to be running around with a Comb's Heart. So just rolling a high armor rare chest makes sense, which makes Juggernaut work. I do have the option, if I get loads of currency and I get Combs, Hearts, and all that good stuff, I can always respec into Berserker anyway. This just seems like a really obvious option that I'm not seeing many people talk about. When people think of defensive exposed fire, they seem to just lean very heavily towards UR Fortify. And UR Fortify is nice, but the issue you have is you just become even more out of the tree. You just become, you're more out of the way. There's even more stretching you need to start doing, and 20% reduced damage taken from Fortify versus so much armor that nothing can really touch you. I think I'd rather this. Now, again, you say, but Tarke, what about determination? Because this is only good determination. Well, we now have the Essence Worm ring. The Essence Worm ring is a unique ring. It's an unset ring. You can put an aura in it, and that aura costs nothing. All other auras cost more. Because of blood magic, you normally just don't run auras, but with the Essence Worm ring, I can do Essence Worm determination, have a boatload of armor, and that's it. It's chilling. It's just like I sacrifice one ring slot for determination, which is a huge defensive boost. I'm not planning on using many uniques. I'm basically using a Quill Rain and an Essence Worm. That's it. So I shouldn't have any issues with capping resistances. So losing one ring slot for so much armor should be perfectly fine. As you can see, I have a whole boatload of life and armor. So there's a layered defense rather than me just saying Scion armor, whatever, right? Now, if you do want to do this build in softcore, or you want to do it and just be a bit more greedy with the damage, what I'd recommend you do is respec it into Berserker. Keep the tree basically the same as is. If you're playing in a groups all the time and you're worried about elemental equilibrium messing up the group's damage, quite simply just fix your routing and drop this middle section. This gives you a lot of points to play with. You'll still have 198 max life. If you think that that for some reason isn't enough life, you can change your routing, come up this way, drop this section, grab this. You have even more points to play with. You can come up here to grab Heart of Flame to make up some of the damage you've missed. You know, there are options around it. Personally, I recommend just going for the EE. It's just a very solid option. You could rejig the tree slightly and get Jewel Curse. And using Jewel Curse does work. You just use a Curse on Hit Frenzy setup. The only issue with that is it's just more points. It puts you slightly more out of the way, and I just don't really think it's needed. If you do decide to go Jewel Curse and you've somehow managed to keep this routing, I would highly recommend putting an Intuitive Leap here, pick up Skittering Runes for the Curse effect, and pick up these two AoE nodes. Without Jewel Curse, I don't know if it's really justifiable to get Skittering Runes, and if you're not getting Skittering Runes, I don't think Intuitive Leap is worth it just for these two nodes. I'd rather put a DPS Jewel in here, something with life. But if you do go Jewel Curse and you can fit all that in, then, you know, that's what I'd recommend. As for links, I will be running this as my AoE / single target setup, and I'll get into why it's / single target setup. Again, I'm not expecting to have very amazing gear. I kind of want to do this on the cheap because it's a temporary league. It's only a 2 week, you know, if I get bad RNG, if I have to reroll, if I die, whatever. I just want realistic, achievable goals. So a Quill Rain, I don't need it to be linked, and a rare 5-link armor chest. I'll probably roll the chest myself, so I just need to buy a cheap base, either link it myself or buy one pre-linked, but buying a cheap, you know, 5-link rare base isn't that expensive. I will go for Explosive Arrow, Fire Pen, Less Duration, GMP, Life Leech. Obviously, because I'm a Juggernaut, and this is the one big downside of Juggernaut, is you have to use the Life Leech gem. Chieftain gets Life Leech for free, Berserker gets semi-Life Leech, Scion gets Life Leech via Berserker, right? So that's the one obvious drawback of Juggernaut, but it's not as bad as you would originally think. This makes my colors 3 red, 2 green. 3 red, 2 green on a pure armor chest is pretty easy to color, which is very important in a temporary league. Now, ideally for single target, my single target would be in my Quill Ring, and it would be Explosive Arrow, Fire Pen, Less Duration, Conk, Life Leech. Getting these colors on a Quill Ring is kind of difficult, but what I can do is I can drop this Conk effect for slow projectiles, in which case it's the exact same colors, and if I do that, then I just, for AoE clear, use this. For single target, take out GMP, put in slow approach. And it works. So I can basically have 2 5-links just off one chest. It's really easy coloring. If I can get a linked up Quill Rain, obviously I'd prefer that. I'll get slightly more damage out of it. I get, you know, better quality of life. I don't need to change gems around. But I can basically do everything just with a 5-link. Getting an Essence Worm shouldn't be too difficult. Getting a Quill Rain shouldn't be too difficult, especially since I don't need a linked one. Because I don't need a linked Quill Rain, I can get a super cheap one with low item level. Usually the way that Quill Rains work is if they're a low item level, you can't 6-socket 5-link them. they're worth nothing. If they're a good item level, they're super expensive when they're linked and stuff. So I can plan on just getting a really cheap core rain nice and early on. I will be using flammability as my main curse. I have somewhat toyed around with the idea of self-casting flammability, but I will probably just use Frenzy, Curse on Hit, GMP Flam. One quite nice thing about having a Frenzy Curse on Hit set up is for single target I can keep up my Frenzy charges. I will have more than enough life regen at 7.9 to run Blood Rage perfectly fine, but having a way of maintaining your frenzies is nice, and then obviously Essence Worm Determination. This is really all you need to worry about. Everything else is just filler cast on damage taken, have a golem in there, have a frost wall in there somewhere for single target. But yeah, pretty straightforward. Now, if you did want to see other trees that I kind of toyed around with, because I've played around with the idea of Explosive Arrow a fair amount, I did come up with this, which is an Explosive Arrow Elementalist, which doesn't seem completely terrible. The tree itself looked good. It's not crazy on points. It has loads of life. It has damage. It has, you know, Liege of the Primordial, which gives you a lot of increased damage. If you have a Flame Golem out, you get Shaper of Desolation, meaning you're shocking, which is really cool. You're chilling, which is really nice. You get Prolif. But my main issue with this whole idea is Explosive Arrow generally just one-shots everything. And if I'm just one-shotting everything, then I don't really need Shock, and I don't really need Chill, and I don't really need Prolif because everything's already dead. So it's nice having the Prolif, and in some cases it will be a DPS boost. But it doesn't really fix anything. Explosive Arrow's main issue has always been amazing map clear, but kind of bad single target. Shaper of Desolation builds, their main issue has always been amazing map clear, kind of bad single target. So that doesn't seem to really help the Explosive Arrow thing. It just makes your map clear better, but it's already amazing. This is a nice DPS boost, but it doesn't give you any real defense, and you still need the Life Leech gem. So you can play around with this, but I'm not a massive fan of it. Scion is the obvious go-to. You get Life Leech for free, you get Permanent Onslaught, it's gravy, you get Vulpact. Cool. I second to a few people who've played Explosive Arrow this league, and apparently I will be fine without Vulpact on my Juggernaut, so I'm going to trust their judgment. If I'm not fine, those guys are horrible people, but I think I should be okay. I just went run double reflect maps. Obviously, not being able to run double reflect maps, you know, means that, okay, I have to care slightly more about map mods. That's a waste of point. But, yeah. If you want to just go for the generic Scion tree, this is what I would go with. This is basically just a copy-paste of a tree that I saw Rise playing around with, so all credit goes to him for that. You'd obviously respec it to grab up EE, but, you know, this is my baby. This is what I will be playing. For Bandits, I will be going Oak for the health, Krait for the attack speed, Krait for the frenzy charge. You could go health skill point frenzy charge, but having that, you know, extra 8% attack speed is quite nice. I don't get any attack speed in the tree. I do get 10% from Undeniable, so Undeniable plus 8% plus a Pull Rain, that should have me sorted out. And I'm actually feeling really optimistic about this build. Assuming that I don't screw up horribly on my end, it should be a tanky enough to last me through most of the league. Juggernaut will have a fair amount of representation, so I don't know if I'll be chasing any Demis. I'm usually not much of a ladder player. But maybe, just maybe, this 2 week I will try pushing ladder, and maybe I'll get myself that Dem at the end. But if you have any questions, post them in the comments down below. I'll do my best to get around to answering them. I will be streaming every day of the 2 week. And the servers go live in about an hour and a half, so you'll get to see this soon in action. I'm Tarke. Have a good day. Hopefully this was helpful to you. Bye-bye.